Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the special meeting of the Township of Ocean Planning Board to order. And we have the roll call.
Yeah.
Dr. Benedetto. Mr. Delia.
Here.
Mr. Duffy. Mr. Good. Ms. Close. Mr. Beebe. Mr. Ciano.
Here.
Mr. Wiley.
Here.
Chairman Burley.
Here. Salute to the flag.
With liberty and justice for all.
Notice requirements of the open public meeting law for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the notice having been sent to the Asbury Park Press and Poster and filed in the office of the Township Clerk on February 20th, 2019. There's an emergency exit through the auditorium doors and 2 exits at the rear of the room. We also have a no smoking policy. No new testimony will be taken tonight after 10 p.m. All meetings will be video and audio taped and shown on the Township of Ocean's Community Cable Channel, Channel 22 on Verizon Fios, and Channel 77 on Cablevision. All cell phones must be turned off, or if you need to make a call, please make your call outside the meeting room. Currently we have a reorganization coming up, and we're going to swear in some members that need to be sworn in. We'll have to wait for Mr. Kirk to get back in order to do that. So we're going to skip ahead on the agenda to elect the chairman. So somebody makes a motion.
I'll make a motion for Chairman Burley.
I'll second. Yes.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please? Vote.
Mr. Delia.
Yes. 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 Yes, he votes.
Yes? Okay. Can I have a motion to elect a vice chair?
I can stop you there, because Mr. Kirk is back. Mr. Kirk, looking at the document that Amy just provided me, are we going to swear in the mayor, Mr. Brody, and Mr. Fisher today? Oh, no. That's what it says.
Mayor, Dr. Fisher, will not swear with you.
Okay. And we have resolution, Mr. Brody.
Oh, well.
Mr. Brody,
Next, we're going to elect a vice chair.
I'll nominate Ed DeFilia.
Thank you, Mr. Brody, but I think, and maybe Sandy can clarify this, that my position as an alternate bars me from holding one of the officer positions.
We can change that.
I would suggest that you nominate someone who board members in that role.
I'll nominate Jeffrey Weinstein.
I second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Isn't Mr. Weinstein also an alternate?
Yeah, so that leaves you.
I'll second.
I really weren't my third choice.
Yes, I move to elect Estelle or appoint Estelle. I second motion.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Town business.
Yes.
Weinstein,
Yes.
Chairman Burley,
Yes. Next, we have the approval of meeting dates for the upcoming year.
I'll move to accept those. I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Chairman Burley,
Yes. Next, would somebody please make a motion to appoint the planning board attorney? Someone make a motion, please? Michelle made a motion, someone second, please?
I'll second.
Roll call, please, for Brown?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next, on the reorganization list is the appointment of the planning board planner. That would be Jim.
I'll move to accept that. I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Chairman Burley,
Yes. Next on the list is the appointment of the planning board engineer. Bill?
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Next on the reorganization, number 8, appointment of the board, planning board secretary.
I'll nominate Amy Stewart. Second.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Next is the swearing in of the
All right, I'd ask if Mr. Higgins and Ms. Harold stand. Raise the right hand. Both of you swear testimony that you will give throughout this next planning board year. The whole truth and nothing but the truth in every hearing. Thank you. And for the record, we do this at this time so that at each and every hearing, it's not necessary to re-swear our professionals.
Next on the list, we have resolution memorializations. Number 1 would be Matthew and Christine Clark, Lot 140, L 98 and 99, 400 Lincoln Drive, Ocean, New Jersey subdivision and bulk variance, which was approved. Yes, would someone please make a motion?
Before we have a motion, I'm going to look to Mr. Higgins. Did you happen to see an email today from the counsel for the applicant?
No, I did not.
The proposed resolution was sent over, and he indicated that he thought that there would be another variance for a third-story addition based on interpretation of the ordinance.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, then I would suggest that we pass the resolution as set forth in the draft, and if need be, we can, if there's clarification from the attorney that is conclusive, then we can make an amendment at the next meeting.
Do we have a regular board meeting on the end of the month?
Yes, we do.
Would it be better just to carry this to the end of the month? And
Ms.
then
Grimko, that's your firm. Would you like that carried until Clark resolution? It came up late this afternoon.
Yeah, I don't, Rick never mentioned it to me, so I can't speak to this thing. I don't know.
Yes. It's next Monday. All right, in light of...
Put it at the end, and then maybe we could
All right,
reach out to Rick.
we'll change that to the end. And if we don't want it tonight, then it'll be voted on at the next board meeting, which is the regular meeting. I really can't imagine if there's any harm in it.
Next resolution memorialization would be the Jewish Community Center, Block 22, Lot 117 and 121, 400 Lincoln Drive, Ocean, minor site plan approval.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. I guess we now can proceed to the only case on the list, Bill 35.
I'm going to stop you there. I'm looking for Kirk. Looks like he stepped outside again. So,
He's upstairs.
okay.
He's trying to accommodate people that can't sit here, but no one can hear upstairs. So it's not really fair to the people that don't want upstairs, it's the public portion of the meeting.
All right, well, let's wait to have Mr. Kirk come back down, and then we'll have a discussion on that. But in the interim, Mr. Kirk, we do have a resolution and an oath for Mr. Pisano in substitution for the mayor. So,
Oh, yeah?
that's my version. Well, gentlemen, thank you for not clapping. To let you in on the issue here, when there's a public meeting, there is a capacity issue. Mr. Kirk, what is the capacity issue here?
140.
And you've actually counted everybody upstairs and downstairs?
Yes, 128.
Have you had everybody come downstairs?
3 people do not wish to come downstairs.
All right. So the reason why this time was taken was to assure that the ability of people to be in this room if they want without violating the fire code was met. So thank you for your patience. And Mr. Chairman.
We can proceed?
Yes, we can proceed.
Okay. So we're going to start on this
It's all about their safety.
case of Deal 35 Land, LLC, Block 33, Lot 19.01, 1603 State Highway 35, Ocean, Zone C7. Ms. Krimko for the applicant.
Thank you. Jennifer Krimko, law firm of Ansel, Grimm and Aaron, here on behalf of the applicant.
A bunch of items were submitted to the board 10 days in advance as required by law. What I'd like to do is identify them for information purposes. I did give an updated list to Amy. I'm going to read through them for the record quickly because we will be referring to some of them through our one witness this evening. As A68 is the preliminary and final major site plans prepared by Mazer Consulting dated 6/27/18, last revised through 6/14/19, consisting of 64 sheets. Can you give this to Sandy? A69 Stormwater Management Report by Mazer Consulting, last revised through 6/13/19. A70 Sightline Exhibit by Mazer Consulting, dated 6/18/19. A71 Tree Location and Preservation Plan by Mazer Consulting, dated 6/27/18, revised through 6/14/19. A72 Addendum to the Stormwater Management Report prepared by Mazer Consulting, dated 7/12/19. A73 Level 2 Tree Study prepared by W. Zig Panic, Licensed Tree Expert, number 364. A75 Architectural Plans for Wawa by MMA Architects, dated 7/3/19, consisting of 3 sheets. A76 Color Rendered Elevations prepared by MMA, consisting of 18 sheets. And I'm going to hand out those packets to the board. And these were as a result of questions from Dr. DiBenedetto and Ms. Close with regard to the colors and that they didn't seem the same as what we handed in. So we've actually gone to liberty of updating all of them as to color, and I'll hand them out in a moment. A77 Revised Urban Jug Handle Exhibit by Mazer Consulting, dated 7/15/19, consisting of 1 sheet. That was not submitted. It's a concept plan. It's going to be discussed today. And as you'll hear, it was as a result of a technical review meeting with Bill Fitzgerald and Jim Higgins on Thursday. A78 Revised Urban Jug Handle Exhibit with the WB67 prepared by Mazer Consulting, also dated today. A79 Revised Urban Jug Handle Exhibit with the sign graphics prepared by Mazer, dated today. And A80 an aerial photo of the Route 1 Urban Jug Handle intersection located in New Brunswick. And just by way of background, after the applicant submitted the plans back on July 3rd, Bill and Jim had the opportunity to review them, and in light of some additional traffic concerns that Bill had, Ron had asked us to sit down and meet for a TRM. We also met with the sergeant from the police department to go over what those issues were, and they really had to do with traffic calming within the urban junk handle itself. As a result of that meeting, and after several back and forths with Bill, we presented what we are going to address as Exhibit A77. Because all of the layout and all of the architecturals have already been testified to at prior hearings, and this submission was merely to provide the engineered plans to that effect. It didn't really change anything. The only witness that I have this evening is our traffic engineer, because importantly, the only remaining issue was with regard to the changes as it relates to that urban jug handle. So I will present my traffic engineer, and you're going to say, well, you submitted that big giant tree report. As I had indicated at a prior meeting, your ordinance, and it's summarized, I'm assuming everybody read Mr. Higgins' report. It's summarized in his report. Your ordinance has 2 provisions as it relates to trees. The first is in your general ordinance. That's a tree removal ordinance. The tree removal ordinance governs dead or dying trees and authorizes a property owner to submit a certified tree expert, or as we learned, a licensed tree expert report to the Department of Community Development to remove dead or dying trees. That's separate and apart from the purview of this planning board. When you look at your planning board site plan requirements, it's called Tree Preservation and Protection Plan. And that is a different set of rules and regulations. That doesn't speak as to dead or dying trees because that's governed by the general ordinance and is regulated outside of the scope of the planning board and administered by Mr. Kirk's office, obviously with consultation with the township planner. But when you look at the tree preservation and protection ordinance in your site plan design requirements, it really only speaks to those trees that are being removed outside the scope of the dead and dying, and what the replacement is. There's no discretion for this board as it relates to that, except for one thing, would be to grant a waiver from that provision. The ordinance is very specific as to its requirements, and the applicant is stipulating to meeting those requirements. So we submitted the tree removal plan to show the trees that are being removed. As you know, your ordinance doesn't provide for the preservation of trees. It just says when you do a development and you take down trees, there's certain trees that qualify that have to be replaced, and if they're not replaced, then you have to make a payment. We submitted, and our calculation had a payment of one number. I think it was in the range of $153,000. Jim reviewed our numbers, and his number was in the range of $223,000. It's not even something that's up for discussion. There is a correct calculation, which we will work out with Jim to figure out what the distinction is. But submission as it relates to tree removal, if we are going to comply, which we are stipulating we are, the board does not have discretion over trees. The ordinance doesn't say you can remove trees, you can't remove trees. It just says if you remove them, you have to replace them, and if you don't replace them, you have to make a payment. We agree, we will pay, we will comply by your ordinance, we will follow all the rules and regulations subject to the review of your township planner and your director of community development, as is the case with every other development that's occurred here in the last 20 years. And I would suffice it to say, Jim's been here a little bit longer, even longer than that. So for that reason, and that's a longer explanation than what I gave at the last one, the only witness that I'm going to have here tonight is Dan DeSario, our traffic expert.
Yes, but I will ask Jim later on when we get to that spot about the report.
Of course.
Great.
You're free, and it would
Thanks.
it would be up our risk to not present
Got
the
it.
testimony if
Got
need
it.
be. So
Yep.
what I would like to do is, before we move to Dan, is just hand out these pamphlets. We do have extras for the public, and it is just an updated, color-rendered elevation of all of the architectural plan with accurate depiction of colors as proposed.
All right, as Ms. Krimko is handing out those documents, I want to look towards Jim and Bill.
Yeah, of course. I just want to make sure they
Do you want to provide updates on any of your reports, or do you want to proceed with the testimony?
I think, I prefer to proceed with the testimony.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
I think I can give a verbal summary of some things that have transpired that might be a benefit to the board.
That would be fine.
That would be great.
We'd love to hear from you.
So, as you know, at the last hearing, the concept of an urban jug handle was presented in a little more. It had been discussed 2 meetings ago in some detail, and we made some suggestions about possibly relocating it to and capture almost all of the commercial inside jug handle itself. And in the last hearing, that was presented, and the applicant had done that. And my concerns at that point were, that's fine, I like the layout a lot, I thought they did a great job, but we need assurances that it was safe. And by safe, some questions of the audience that came out early in this, when we were talking about even the other jug handles, how about speed limit and how is it going to be controlled? We also talk about sight lines, driver sight lines at intersections, driver sight lines at pedestrians and crosswalks, etc. Having said that, a formal plan was filed, as Ms. Krimko testified, on July 3rd. I picked it up on July 7th. I reviewed the urban jug handle in detail as to safety, and we had a technical review meeting, as Ms. Krimko pointed out, at 10 o'clock on Thursday the 11th. At that was a captain from the police department whose input was requested specifically as regards traffic control, enforcement, and speed limit. So the questions that were talked about most at the technical review, which I think are things that interested parties had asked early, what would be the posted speed limit, how would it be controlled, and under control I kind of listed, just for talking purposes right now, geometry, signage, and some other hardware that aims at traffic calming. Because, as you know, many people coming off a highway at 50 get onto a ramp. They don't get slowed down as quickly as desirable sometimes. And this particular ramp, this urban jug handle concept, is a ramp within a commercial development. So there are intersections along that ramp, various entrances to individual commercial sites, and crosswalks, both of which require adequate addressing. Okay, so having said that, what we were trying to do was come up with a concept that would resolve some of the issues. I thought we had reached a list of items in particular. I don't know that we've quite got there yet, but once resolved and that layout is finalized, that would become part of the site plan documents, because it's really the layout for all the curb lines and primary driveways through the site. So having said that, we should probably listen to the presentation. But one other thing, I did promise that I would try to address as many things of concern as I could that are under my jurisdiction. One thing that you should be aware of is the DEP has claimed review jurisdiction over the stormwater management plan for this development. That happens they always have ultimate jurisdiction. They do not always take an active jurisdiction over a stormwater management plan for a major development. There are legal agreements, if you will, that bind the DEP and the town to certain obligations. One of them is they have the right, if I review a plan that they haven't looked at, they have a right at any time they want to come in and audit my review, the design engineer's design, etc. They do it on a sampling type basis around the state. This particular matter, because it's next to Poplar Brook, because there's a flood hazard area delineation that's a part of applicant's DEP proceedings, and this is immediately adjacent to it and affects it, they have claim review jurisdiction. So not only will I look at it in the interest of the township to get some things that we like to see incorporated into designs, which DEP doesn't prohibit but don't require, but we do as a matter, they will also be reviewing it actively, and their comments, are public record via their procedure. So that's my summary verbally.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay,
Ms.
thank you.
Krumka, proceed, please.
Dan, you were sworn in and accepted as an expert in the field of traffic engineering at previous hearings. You remain under oath. What's up on the board for the public to see is what we moved in for identification is A77. It's a revised urban jug handle exhibit. This was prepared by Mazer at your direction as a result of the meeting with Mr. Fitzgerald, correct?
Yes.
So if you could just walk the board quickly through what the proposed changes are, and if you could offer your expert opinion as to whether or not this addresses those concerns, and as proposed, if it is safe and, as Bill had indicated, provides the necessary traffic calming to control the speed.
Certainly, and good evening again. As the board knows, where we started from versus what is up on the board on display in terms of Exhibit A77 is a plan that has changed over time. At the request of the board, some of your members, we've incorporated what I've coined as an urban jug handle into the on-site design. So that urban jug handle will take you from Route 35 northbound into the site and take you down to Deal Road so that you could proceed westbound on Deal Road. In addition, somebody would have the ability, if they were heading westbound on Deal Road, to come into the site and use the urban jug handle in the reverse direction to come out to Route 35 northbound. Now, what has changed since the last hearing, and is basically the major change, is that up towards the middle left portion of this drawing, at the suggestion of your engineer at the technical review meeting that took place last Thursday, we've created a three-way intersection that is always stop controlled.
That's always what?
Always stop controlled.
Okay.
So along those three legs, whether you're coming northbound, eastbound, or westbound at that internal three-legged intersection, you'd be confronted with stop signs and stop bars. So it's always stop control. In addition, we've created in the eastbound direction what's called a channelized...
Excuse me for 1 second. Could you, whoever's standing there, could you move back? Or sit down, or to the side? Thanks.
Or you can come to the...
Here, see right,
See right here.
Or you can come to the other side of the room. It might be easier. That's Deal Road. So as you come
to the,
into the site off of 35 northbound and you're heading eastbound, we've created what's called a channelized right turn lane. That right turn lane would be yield controlled.
Yield controlled?
Yield controlled, as most channelized right turn lanes are. And that is a measure internally to slow traffic down. For anybody that's coming off 35 northbound that would want to proceed to Deal Road to head westbound, or to do anything in terms of coming into the site at some of the internal driveways. In addition to creating that three-legged intersection and that channelized right turn lane, we've also are proposing, at the request of your engineer as well as one of your police officers that we met with, some internal signage. Essentially 3 components. One is we will have strategically placed those real-time speed limit display signs where as you're driving in either direction within the site along the urban jug handle in either direction, at certain points along its length, there'll be speed limit signs that are displaying in real time how fast you are driving versus the posted speed limit that will be 25 miles per hour. The officer that we did meet with thought that was a very good measure to implement and was of the opinion that those signs, and I share that opinion, are very effective to change the behavior of people. Because when you see a display that says you're going faster than the posted speed limit, most people slow down so that they comply with the posted speed limit.
And Dan, because this is going to be a public easement and we're going to grant Title IX rights to the Ocean Township Police Department, and it was indicated that they would accept them, so they would have the ability to enforce that speed limit and any other traffic activity along that urban jug handle, correct? And the site in its entirety.
That is correct.
Ms. Krimka, is it Title IX?
Is it 39? 30. If I didn't say it clearly, my head was down. I was taking notes. Sorry,
Okay.
Title 39.
Yes, it is Title 39.
Okay.
The second component in terms of traffic calming is that at all crosswalks along the length, the urban jug handle length, there will be signs that say stop to pedestrians in the crosswalk. Now, as we all know, the state of New Jersey, the law is you must come to a stop when a pedestrian is in a crosswalk, and we will have the associated signage at those pedestrian crosswalks coming across the jug handle that indicate that you must stop if any pedestrians are in those crosswalks. And then the third component is essentially pedestrian crossing warning signs. They're the yellow signs that are being highlighted on the screen right now, and those will also be placed strategically in advance of the crosswalks that come across the urban jug handle in a few locations. So in totality, in terms of the changes that we've created both physically in terms of the alignment, geometry, and design, as well as the signage that we are proposing that are shown on this concept plan that I've also discussed with you here this evening, it's my opinion that we are providing a safe and efficient design with respect to the urban jug handle that not only accommodates vehicular traffic in both directions, but also is sensitive to and accommodates and is supportive of any pedestrians that may be crossing along the urban jug handle. We do envision, as sure as on the board as well as the public, we would love people that would live in the proposed residential to walk to some of the uses on the commercial end of the site, and we are accommodating them by this design. In addition, anyone staying at the hotel, we would love for some of them to come and avail themselves of the restaurants that are proposed on the commercial side. So in totality, I think the plan has evolved over time, and I think it's evolved to a point where I am very comfortable with its design as it relates to accommodating not only vehicular traffic, but pedestrians as well.
And Dan, to go a step further, the DOT will also, State Department of Transportation will also review this and may have comments, and while they don't have ultimate jurisdiction of the interior of the site, they do have traffic comments and have an interest in this, correct?
That is correct. And as it relates to the urban jug handle itself, DOT will have control over its design because it will be signed such that anyone that wants to go from 35 northbound to Deal Road westbound has to use the urban jug handle.
Mr. Verley, I think that there's some new members of the public here that might not be aware of the procedure. You might want to go over the procedure. Someone asked this young lady to sit down, and now she's raising her hand, and you can't see her.
Now I see your hand.
Okay. No,
Oh, you can't, you'll have to wait for the end of his testimony. You can wait for the end of his testimony. You can ask all the questions you want.
Well, after we ask our questions. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's after we ask our questions. Right. Yeah.
Thanks.
They can.
I didn't know that if you saw that, Mr. Chair, so I just wanted to point it out.
Saw her hand.
Now, Dan, there were some recommendations by Mr. Fitzgerald with regard to slightly changing the geometry as it relates to the channelized right turn. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, you want to just go over that briefly and talk about why we're proposing it the way we are?
The design as set forth before you this evening allows a larger vehicle like a tractor trailer to negotiate that right turn at the posted speed limit. Now, Mr. Fitzgerald has expressed some concerns, and I'll let him articulate them to you with that design. I can tell you, if we were to modify that design and make that radius, as somebody's making that right turn, tighter, what has to happen is the channelized right turn lane width has to get wider. Because as a tractor trailer is negotiating that turn, either they can do it by virtue of the design we've put forth to you now, or the radius can become tighter. The width of that channelized right turn lane has to become wider, so that essentially the area is the same with which a tractor trailer can negotiate the turn. Now the latter design would require the crossing distance of the crosswalk across the channelized right turn lane to become longer. So it's a trade-off. We can tighten up the geometry of that radius, but we have to make the crosswalk crossing length longer to accommodate a tractor trailer.
Dan, is there an example of that you're aware of?
Yes, Exhibit A80 is, and Jeremy's going to put it up on the screen for you. This is one that I've talked with Bill Fitzgerald at length. It exists in North Brunswick, and it's in fact at a site with a movie theater that me and my family frequent quite often. And it's a little dark on the screen, but essentially it's the same kind of concept where you come off, in this instance, Route 1. You make a right turn into the site, and then you can go around a channelized right turn lane to continue to a signalized intersection to come back across Route 1. You'll see in this instance that the width of the channelized right turn lane is very wide, but the radius to make that right turn lane is smaller as compared to the design that we've put forth for the Ocean Township project. So that's the alternative design. In my opinion, having a longer crosswalk length is not desirable, and I would respectfully submit to you that the design as it stands right now, where the crosswalk width is minimized but the radius is larger, would be the preferred design in my opinion.
And this is the minimized radius.
Correct, but a wider channelized right turn lane width.
Well, Bill, what do you, Bill, you want to give your opinion? What do you?
No, I actually do. Yeah, my concern, if we could go back to the, I don't know what radius this is or how it relates to this site, but it is definitely smaller. You can see that. My main concern with the current geometry is that radius that Dan's pointing to is fairly large. The design vehicle that was used, and I only got this afternoon fairly late, okay, is an interstate tractor trailer. It's called the WB67. It's the interstate design vehicle. It is not the only tractor trailer design vehicle. I have not had time to find out if that's appropriate in an urban jug handle. I don't think it would easily go through the middle of Newark or Trenton, which are urban areas where you would do urban jug handles. So I just simply haven't had time to review it. But my concern at this point is that most of the vehicles going around that sweeping turn are not interstate tractor trailers. And the radius of that turn being so generous makes it easy to go fast. And I thought what we agreed on, what I had suggested last week, was to make that as tight as possible, and that's where I thought we were going. So I'm not totally prepared to say this is what I think is the best or not. I'm listening to what Mr. DeSario is saying. He's certainly an expert. I have a lot of respect for him and his opinion. I actually called him today, or had him call me, to talk about it a little bit. But I have not had time to go through and research, number one, what DOT would require as the design vehicle for an urban jug handle, and what options there are in terms of, there's no question that if you make the radius smaller, you must make the pavement larger. Not necessarily for the whole way, and it depends on the angle of the turn, etc. So it's just not clear to me what the options are to look at yet.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you. That's okay. We're going to start the meeting again, please. So I am going to ask the public to just keep the chatter down while this particular witness is giving his testimony.
Sorry, I didn't hear you, Mr. Verley.
I'm asking the general public to keep the chatter down while you're asking the witness to give his testimony.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
If I may, I guess I was sort of talking a little bit because I had one or two more questions. And
Okay.
Dan, I noticed that some of the the crosswalk that crosses the channelized slip ramp, if you will, channelized right turn, that has the yield line, isosceles triangle yield line. Some of the others don't. Is it a good idea, some of the other crosswalks that are like mid-block or whatever, particularly the one, I guess, coming from the middle of the hotel and the one down, I think, near the bank, shouldn't they have those triangles at least on one side, if not both?
Yes, or stop bars.
Right, that would go with the R1-5 sign, stop for pedestrians.
Correct.
Okay.
That's all.
That's all you have? Okay.
I just didn't want to forget.
So, Dan, in hearing the concerns, can we further tweak this? And it's obviously whatever this board approves is always going to be subject to the DOT, who has the ultimate jurisdiction. So what I would offer is that we will continue to tweak it, work with Bill between now and the next meeting, and hopefully get to something that he can bless. And then obviously it'll be subject to the DOT. Okay. So does the board have any questions for Dan in the meantime?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Also, I just want to say that we've had many hours of you kind of sitting here before us, and we've all had a lot of discussions around this to get this to this spot. So there's been a lot of work in lengthening excess roads and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of work has been done. So I want to thank you for kind of coming up with this as well in the next revision. All right.
Yes, sir.
And I just want to kind of point that out to everybody here. There's been a lot of work kind of getting to this spot and going over a number of different tweaks to it. But saying that, a couple of concerns I want to just ask you about. So it seems that one of the things that we've kind of came up with now is providing a lot of documentation via signage and those kind of things along the roads for pedestrians, for drivers, and those kind of things. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's one of the safety things that we think we're adding to this. Correct?
Safety and traffic calming, yes.
Okay. At what point do those signs and those things become white noise to drivers that go through that all the time? Is there a timeout part to that where people are just people who are constantly going through that are starting to ignore the signs? At some point they become fresh and then they don't become fresh. What's the strategy to keep that fresh so that people's eyes becomes white noise and they constantly see new things and are alerted to that? Is there a methodology to that?
Well, I'll answer in two ways. The first being that all the signs have to comply with certain visibility standards so they don't become white noise. And the second is, as part of this proposal, we have those dynamic speed limit signs that are proposed and will be located strategically along the urban jug handle. So they are constantly changing with the display of the actual operating speed of the vehicles within its view. So you have a very dynamic situation out there that, in my opinion, would stay fresh and not become white noise. And I can tell you just anecdotally from personal experience, I go to a Subway by my work almost every day for lunch. And I'm confronted with those signs. And I do see people, including myself on occasion, slow down because the sign is flashing. When you're going above the speed limit, the sign is flashing and displaying the speed that you are driving. When you come to the speed limit or below, then the display becomes static. And I think that is a very effective measure to control speeds, calm traffic, and it's an element of what we're proposing before you this evening.
Okay. So when you and Bill were talking about this turn, right, widening this turn, so what's the general understanding here? Are you talking about the cars can potentially go 15 miles an hour faster than they would, or 5 miles an hour? What's the general? Anybody, either one of you, what you're kind of thinking here? Like, what's the?
So I'll go first, and then Bill can certainly respond. The design intent is for a 25 mile an hour speed limit through the urban jug handle, not unlike any local road within your municipality. I think I don't share the level of concern that Bill does as it relates to travel speeds through this area because of the signage, because of the speed limit dynamic signage that we are proposing. And I do have faith in most motorists doing the right thing and obeying the speed limit. There will always be people that speed.
They didn't even take a compliment. These are all drivers.
Right.
They didn't even take the compliment.
There will always people that speed.
Right.
We do the best we can in terms of designing roads with proper geometry and signage to control speeds. But notwithstanding that, some people will always do what they're not supposed to do, particularly drivers.
And that's why we're granting Title IX to give the Ocean Township Police Department 39, I said it again, to give the Ocean Township Police Department the ability to issue summonses and actually enforce the speed limit.
That is correct. And one thing that did come to mind now when we were meeting with your police officer on Thursday, he said, and Jen, you might remember specific location, but he says he passes one of these signs, the speed limit signs, with the dynamic speed display. And if you're doing the speed limit, it displays thank you. So I thought that was kind of creative and unique.
Yeah. So,
and it's something that I would want to pursue for this project
so
as well.
one of my major concerns is the three-way stop, right? I don't like that. It doesn't feel good to me. Those are the kind of things where when it doesn't look like there's a lot of traffic, that's when somebody does a yield sign instead of a stop sign. When no one's looking, no one's around, different times of the day. So I don't dig that at all. I mean, I'm not. By the way, I don't know if dig is a real conventional word, but I don't.
You might be dating
I don't
yourself,
dig that at all.
right?
So I don't know what the hazardous rate on those things are, but
so it does go back to enforcement. But that aside, I think I'm of the opinion a three-way or an all-way stop-controlled intersection is better than a two-way stop-controlled intersection in terms of trying to slow traffic down. Having some type of regulatory control is better than having no regulatory control. And how we got to this current design with the three-way intersection, the previous design had the urban jug handle coming around, and then Road E came in as just your traditional T intersection with stop control on Road E and nothing on the urban jug handle. Bill wasn't comfortable with that in terms of potential for higher travel speeds and came up with what I thought was a good suggestion. Let's create this three-leg intersection, put stop control along all three legs, and that will act as a traffic calming measure. You're right. Some people may come to a full stop. Some people may come to a rolling stop. some people may not come to a stop at all, but having it there is better than the alternative of
But
not
is
having
there
it.
is there a methodology to that that makes it more likely that there won't be something like, you know, the new signs out that have the lights around it, or something that will? Is there a methodology that can be deployed here that decreases the likelihood of some violation? Putting the stop signs further back in the road, so there's more leeway between the stop sign and the intersection where all the cars might meet. Is there some methodology that you can suggest?
Look, anything is possible, but I think you can get to a point where you have too much signage.
Speed bumps. If I may, that was the whole point of the traffic calming.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, something like that is completely disrespectful from the public. Yeah. And I hope it's not representative of the public at large, because I know I've been here many nights and most people do not conduct themselves in that fashion. So I would ask, either through the chairman or your attorney, please instruct the public to behave in a proper way.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, please do not approach the area where the witness is again. Thank you very much.
Or talk into the witness's ear.
Right.
So, Dan.
If I may, we looked at this a number of ways, because the first question I asked is really simply, why can't it just be a T intersection, but the T being the south to north, the stem of the T, vertical, being the south to north movement on the ramp, and the cross being the movement direct from the highway to the townhouses. And that's why I also asked the police to be represented here for two reasons. Number one, I wanted their recommendation on speed limit. But number two, because they're getting burdened, in a sense, with the enforcement. And I wanted to be sure, number one, they were happy to accept it, and they are. But number two, that everything had their input in terms of how this would be designed. So they were on board with the three-way stop control. And one of the things that makes it effective are the locations of crosswalks, particularly that crosswalk coming from west to east, where you would come out of the townhouse development and walk into the commercial area, if you will. I over the course of the last couple of days, I've sent out a couple of correspondences to applicants' engineers. I said, does it make sense to eliminate that stop and put in a warning sign that shows the hard left turn, 90-degree turn, with an advisory speed in it, say 10 miles an hour. So that, it's the right 90-degree arrow would be going up to the left with a 10. And it's out there for consideration. It can be stopped, but with a crosswalk there, I think it sort of makes sense to have the stop there. My real concern is the yield on the ramp. I find the ramp generous, and I'm concerned that as you approach the ramp, it's wide open intersection. So a driver has pretty good visibility. He doesn't see any other cars. He doesn't see any pedestrians. Screw the yield, kind of thing. That's where my worry is right now, and I just want to be sure that doesn't get overlooked, or there's a better alternative, because people yield means just what it says. If there's nothing there, there's nothing to yield to, and I want to be sure that gets properly done so it's safe, because people in Ocean have to live with this a long time, a lot longer than this meeting or these meetings. If you will.
So, Bill, are you recommending a stop instead of a yield?
I'm not. As I said earlier, I haven't had time to evaluate. I don't even know that I like the yield concept. In my mind, that radius can be a lot smaller. I don't disagree that because of the sweep of the rear of the truck, that the pavement then has to be wider. But I have not had time to look at how much wider, how much. I realize there are models out there where they run a simulated track. I don't know how accurate they are. I've been before boards where board chairmen have said that's a lot of nonsense. It's different at slow speeds and at fast speeds. So, there's things to look at. I'm not recommending anything other than I think that generally the concept is really good. But it's got to be now as safe as it can be made to be, signed properly, striped properly, etc.
When you showed the one in, was it New Brunswick?
North Brunswick.
North Brunswick.
Yes.
Was that a similar, as far as the amount of traffic that you thought was going to go through that? Is that a similar scale to what we're looking at?
Right now, it is not. However, in the future, it will be. There's a big project in North Brunswick called the Transit Oriented Development. It's North Brunswick Main Street. That site is currently getting built out. And if there's funding that could be secured for a new train station, not only will it be a huge mixed-use development with retailers, Costco already, Target, a bunch of other stuff, and several thousand units of residential, there'll also be thousands of commuter parking that's occurring there as well. So will it rise to the level of what we're talking about here? Absolutely. Is it at that right now? No, it is not. But it was designed to accommodate that future development as part of the DOT permitting process for that project.
I think I just have like one more question, if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
The you know, on the main road when you hit that stop sign, you know, when you're making the bend and you're going to be at the three-way stop.
Yes.
Right. As far as traffic pattern goes, how many on the height of traffic? How many cars back do you think that will start creating at that?
Are you talking about the internal three-way intersection?
Yeah.
I don't envision any backups at that intersection.
You don't envision any backups? Okay.
John, you gotta...
Please reserve your comments till after the testimony is given. Thank you.
Okay.
We're talking about on-site, so existing conditions and what may be occurring on Deal Road or Route 35 isn't what you're asking. You're asking about the on-site intersection.
Inside,
correct?
yeah, inside the.
Inside,
right, he knows what
okay.
he knows what I'm talking about. You don't expect any.
I do not.
You expect it to be there, stop, go. Next one come in, stop, go, kind of.
Correct, because the two east-west legs are only really serving the residential portion of the development to the east. That would be the only reason why anyone would want to go through in the east-west direction.
Okay.
People coming up northbound are either coming from Deal Road to come into the site to avail themselves of what's available on the site, or they're going to continue on the 35 northbound. The westbound Deal Road right turn from Deal Road onto Route 35 northbound is not that significant today, based on our counts and all the discussions we've had previously.
Sure. Okay.
So I don't envision or expect any type of queuing issue at that internal three-way intersection.
Okay. Bill, do you kind of agree with that, or do you expect it?
Yeah, I didn't really expect the queuing to be an issue in there because, as you said, the east-west movement is essentially all about residential.
Okay.
And basically it means that they're either coming from Highway 35 and going to the residential, and that's the extreme north end of the residential development. If you're coming northbound on 35 up toward Deal Road, it probably, given the new improvements that are proposed along Deal Road and the near side jug on Deal Road that exists now, it probably makes more sense to make the right onto Deal Road, get in the dedicated lane, go to the new signal or the expanded signal at Logan and make a left into the development for the majority. So that's really only the north end of the townhouse.
Okay. Cool.
But still doesn't mean that the geometry has to be the best it can be.
Yeah.
I have concerns about what's the real design vehicle. If that's what it is, that's fine. But I have a question as to whether that's the appropriate design vehicle for this scenario.
I think ultimately it's going to be DOT's decision in terms of vehicle type for this design, at least from northbound 35 coming down to Deal Road, because that is essentially the urban jug handle function of this design. I can tell you we typically design to WB 67 design vehicles for state highways. However, there are instances where we've designed to smaller design vehicles, so that's certainly something we can work out with your engineer to his satisfaction.
Just for our edification, how big are these vehicles? I mean, you guys are spewing off numbers
67
here.
feet long. The front all have a tractor called the WB20. It's a 20-foot tractor. And then the box. It's the tractor plus the box, like a semi. Like,
So the
Okay, so
tractor, go ahead, Bill.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, the tractor's a sleeper cab. And then the trailer's 53 feet long. So all the trailers you see on the roads today, they're all 53-foot trailers. The only difference between the different sizes is the tractor. If it doesn't have a sleeper cab, it's a WB50. If it has a sleeper cab, it's a W67.
Okay.
And just, Bill, just so I understand, it sounds to me like the three-legged intersection with the yield and generally the concept you like, and I assume so because I think you suggested it,
Well, no, I said it.
Yeah.
I thought you did a great job.
Right.
I just wanted
But
to say
so
it.
the only issue really is the geometry of that one leg as it goes around the curve.
Pretty much.
Okay. So certainly I think between now and the next meeting we can provide Bill whatever information he needs with regard to the design vehicle and either revise it to what Bill believes it should be or convince him that what's being proposed is a better alternative. If that's the only issue, then, you know, I don't think we resolve it tonight.
No, we're not
No,
going
we
to resolve
won't.
it here.
I
tonight.
know we
It's
won't.
not fair to
Right.
do it as abstract.
So what this comes down to is what Dan said. Everything that you're talking about has to be more or less blessed by the New Jersey Department of Transportation, right?
Ultimately, yes, sir.
That's the ultimate decision there, and with your input and right,
Yeah.
your input along
Right.
with that too as well. Okay.
Right, but, and Mr. Siano, as you know, based on Dan's experience and his numerous discussions with them and the fact that he does most of his work with the DOT, he has a level of comfort as to what they will accept or not. As we've gone through this technical review meetings, Bill suggested certain things and Dan said the DOT will never allow that. So we're comfortable that whatever Dan says is okay, subject to Bill, that the DOT should accept as well. And obviously if the DOT makes any change that's material, we would have to come back to the board. But we don't anticipate any material change.
We have seen a lot of changes from the original plans with that first jug handle right on the north side of.
Yeah, we've been in touch with the DOT throughout.
So we've gone through a number of different drafts. I just wanted to hear it. That's all.
Yeah.
And the DOT has shown great deference to the desires of this board as it relates to that jug handle throughout all my conversations with them.
Any other board members have any questions for this witness? Mr. Weinstein, you look like, no?
It's a little more of a head fake.
Okay, through me. All right, well, I guess, are you done with the witness, Ms.
Yeah.
Krimko? Well, we can open this up to comments. Well, actually, it's not comments, questions from the general public regarding the
And-
testimony of this witness.
Right, and Mr. Chair, as you know, we closed the public portion of the hearing as to Dan's prior testimony.
Right.
So any questions will be specifically limited only to what he testified to this evening.
Right, which is basically, well, that she is correct about that. So basically, the urban jug handle is what's in question,
And the changes that have been
and
made.
the changes that have been made. Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, I think you should go over, since we might have some new people here, about what a question is versus a comment.
Okay. I'm just going to go over a couple of things with the public before we start. You're only allowed to ask questions of this particular witness regarding the testimony he made, regarding the changes that were made to the urban jug handle. Okay. Your personal opinions are not acceptable, but there will be a time when you will have a chance to say anything you like about your personal opinions, but that time is not tonight. Or, I don't know, it might be.
Well, and what I was going to offer, Mr. Chair, and it seems like a good time, the crowd is eager to speak their piece. What I'd like to offer is that normally the public comment doesn't occur until the applicant rests its case.
Correct.
But for the geometry of that one leg of this intersection, we are prepared to rest our case. So my suggestion would be we went out of order in the past to allow for the public to bring their it was a traffic expert. So I would be comfortable opening up to public comment, subject to obviously the right to add any comments after the final few minutes of testimony.
Well, I do thank you for your suggestion, but we're going to just have questioning of this particular witness at this point regarding the testimony he just gave. Okay? We're not going to the public comments yet.
No, I meant after the public questioning was done, but I'll leave that
We
up
don't
to
know how
you.
long that's going to go.
Okay.
But remember, Olga, just regarding this gentleman's testimony, please.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope.
His testimony.
Your name for the record, please.
Olga Hanut, 26 Meadows Lane.
Thank you very much. Please
You
proceed.
indicated that the transit oriental development commuter parking was designed for future development. Did you participate in that study of that development?
Yes.
How long ago was that?
6 years ago, I think we were going through
Hold
the
on. Excuse
approval
me.
process.
I asked you to please ask him questions regarding his testimony.
That's his
Yeah.
testimony.
Is that,
Yeah.
that's one I couldn't
Yeah.
understand.
You were
Okay.
not paying
No, no,
attention.
she's
I
okay.
got you. That's the North Brunswick one, right?
Correct.
All right, I got it.
She's okay.
Now, the Route 1 that you say you put that little picture of Route 1, what other intersection is that? On Route 1, you posted a picture of that jog handle,
That is
urban jog handle.
that is Route 1 on the bottom,
Okay,
and then it's an urban jug candle into a site that has a Regal Cinnamon movie theater and then some strip retail.
okay. So, Mr. Desario, you say that is going to need to be tweaked. Those revisions, are you going to bring them within the 10 days prior to the next meeting?
If you're not comfortable answering, then don't answer. I'm not gonna. I don't want to intimidate Mrs. Hanut as was
I don't get
presented at the
intimidated.
council. As was presented at the council meeting. I had the pleasure of watching the video, so I'm gonna sit quietly. You can answer the question for her.
So it's more a logistics question because I believe the next meeting is next Monday.
That's correct.
So logistically, no, we couldn't submit anything 10 days prior to the next meeting.
Now, what is the radius where the yield sign is going to be? Do you know what is the radius?
The inside radius is 182 and the outside radius is approximately 200.
Is the question for the witness or for you?
I could see you didn't know it and I knew you wanted the answer so you could proceed with your question.
That's fine, thank you, though. You're always so helpful.
I try.
Yes. Now, you also said that for larger vehicles, to negotiate the right turn, like a tractor trailer. I'm glad you call negotiating because it's going to take a lot of negotiating to do.
I have
in
to
that
object.
section.
Mrs. Hanut is not a
Okay.
traffic engineer. She's offering her opinion.
Sorry.
That's correct.
What is the larger vehicles? What is that length that they are going to have to travel or to be able to make the turn?
I'm not sure I know what you're asking.
When you say the larger vehicles is going to take a lot of negotiating to be able to make the turn, in that section, what is the length of that section that they need to maneuver to be able to make the turn because they don't usually.
So the design as we presented this evening, the vehicle, and it's a WB67, so it's a tractor trailer with a sleeper cab and a trailer, can negotiate the turn as you've seen it on the plan. If we were to change some things like the radius and take it from 182 feet to something less, the width of the channelized right turn lane, or right turn I should say, has to get wider because a larger tractor trailer would have to swing further out in order to make that right turn.
So what's going to be the width?
We haven't looked at that yet.
Will you have it for the next meeting?
I believe in a hard line plan form, absolutely, like we have had tonight. Yes.
You say that the speed limit on the urban jog handle is going to be 25 miles an hour. Is that definitely the 25 miles an hour imposed by the DOT?
Yes, we will post the speed limit along the urban jug handle for 25 miles per hour.
Now, you also keep repeating and you mentioned about these signs that you are going to post, that they are creative and unique with the thank you and everything. Who is going to maintain those signs, pay for those signs, and provide those signs?
The applicant.
They are going to maintain now and infinito?
Yes.
I'd just like to remind the board that the urban jug handle is going to remain part of the development and part of the applicant's property. So while a public easement is being granted to allow the public access, an easement being granted to the DOT, The signs will be on the applicant's property. They'll be responsible for maintenance as they would for anything on the property, and failure to maintain them would be a violation of a site plan approval and could be enforced by the town.
At the beginning of your testimony, you said that you had the improvements talk and discuss with the Ocean Police Traffic Safety Bureau. Was that Todd Gregory?
No, I didn't say that. My testimony was we met with a police officer.
Right.
I don't know it wasn't Todd Gregory. I don't know what his name was or what his title was. I don't remember.
And when you met with this police officer, random police officer,
Well, I have
What
to
was
object.
the purpose?
I have to object. Mr. Newt is referencing him as a random police officer. He's not. He's actually a captain in the Ocean Township Police Force. It's Captain Sorrentino. The traffic safety officer, I believe, is on vacation. He was sitting in. He was fully briefed on everything, and I believe had a private meeting with Mr. Kirk to go over the plans and get up to date on the board's issues. Is that correct, Ron?
I just wanted to know from you, who did you meet? Because I wanted to have names so that I can go back and reference to your testimony. You didn't give that testimony, so complete. You just
Well,
mentioned
I didn't give you a name.
Okay.
Who I met with.
Okay.
But the name was just provided.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You also say that there are going to be several walkways for pedestrians in the urban jog handle?
Crosswalks, yes.
Crosswalks. How many are going to be?
Referring to the exhibit up on the screen, which is exhibit,
That one's the last one, 79.
yes, A79. If you look at that exhibit, there's one crosswalk towards the bottom of the page coming across the jug handle, urban jug handle. There's another one further to the top of the page towards the three-legged intersection. That'll primarily serve the residential area. And then there's a third one towards the left side of the page. So there's
So
three,
total three
that cross the jug handle.
cross the jog handle.
Yes, ma'am.
And how are they signalized? How wide are those crossroads?
The width of the crosswalks will be your standard width of a crosswalk. It usually ranges between 6 and 8 feet minimum. And as I testified to extensively, there'll be the associated signage to notify motorists that they must come to a complete stop if any pedestrians are in the crosswalk. And we will also have the advance warning signs as well to provide that advance notice to motorists that there are pedestrians crossing ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Desai.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is anyone else from the general public like to question the witness?
Charles Curlew, 48 Cold Indian Springs Road. Most of your testimony tonight has been focused on the three-way stop and a lot of it on the radius. But I don't see that the radius at the entrance and exit is similar. It looks like a very tight radius, and any semi-trucks coming in will have a serious problem coming in and getting out.
Are you talking about the Route 35?
Coming in from Route 35 North, but also exiting onto Deal Road West. That appears to be a very tight radius. And I don't see how trucks are going to handle it if you have an issue with the interior intersection.
So we are going to put up on the screen exhibit A78, which is a depiction of a WB67 tractor trailer negotiating all the turns that you just referenced. And all of the access points, as well as the urban jug handle itself, have been designed to accommodate that design vehicle traveling along the urban jug handle.
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm seeing the cab. Okay.
If I-
Yeah, right here.
Mr. Chair, we have.
Excuse me.
Hitting the median line, and the back of the trailer is right up against the curb.
That is correct.
Okay, some people are hearing a problem. I don't think you are.
Mr. Chair.
Sir, you can't make comments like that, but thank you. So if you have any more questions for the witness, you're welcome to ask.
Okay, are you going to correct that?
It's not an issue.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what I was going to say next.
Any other commenters?
My name is Nanette Terrio. I live on David
Questions?
Street, which is off of Poplar Road.
Could you just, because I haven't seen you before, could you just spell your last name?
T as in Tom, E-R-E-O. My question is with the urban jug handle, is this going to be the only way, if you're going north on Route 35, to go westbound on Deal Road?
Yes.
Okay, if that's the case, and you're saying that there's going to be 3 crosswalks, and it's going to be 25 miles an hour, you had mentioned that you did not think that was going to be a problem with backup of traffic. Could you explain that, please?
The far side jug handle that's proposed is going to replace the near side jug handle left turn from that jug handle across Deal Road to get onto Deal Road to head westbound.
Mm-hmm.
The traffic that does that movement today, we've analyzed previously, discussed at length previously, and all of our analysis shows that what we're proposing from a traffic operations perspective will operate efficiently without issue.
Okay, how the urban jug handle, sorry.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
How long is that? Is that a quarter of a mile? Is that a half a mile? What is the
I don't have
length
the linear length of that.
Okay, so you don't know if you don't know the linear length, and you don't know how many people are going to be going around it instead of making a left turn the way we are doing it now.
I have to object. He did testify that he does know the number of people based on the traffic counts that he did specifically as to
That was in March, correct?
the number of cars that made that left turn.
But wasn't that done during the winter?
No, there was updated numbers done in the summertime, and there was projections based on the as-built conditions.
When in the summer? I'm sorry, I missed the last meeting. It was done this summer.
I'm not going to go, Mr. Chair, respectfully, I'm not going to be expected to go back in
There
time.
was meetings ago, ma'am, and he did not testify to that now, so.
Where can I get that information? I'm asking you.
Well, I can offer that there are I think there's 3 traffic reports. There's a traffic report and at least 2 or 3 updates to that report. They're on file with the town. Those who have asked, I was happy to email them copies because they are thick and it would save you money from having to have the town copy it.
Okay.
So I'm happy to email it to you.
Okay, but you're not seeing any problem with backup of traffic by people having to go around this urban jug handle?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Name is Joe Barsikai, B as in boy, Arcikai. When this parcel is fully developed.
Sir, could you tell us your address, please? Your address?
446 Redmond Avenue, Oakhurst, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Do you need the zip code too?
No.
What's the address?
I assume that you took a traffic count when you proposed this development. How many cars do you anticipate will exit and enter on both 35 and Deal Road?
Sir, the lady before you just asked a similar question. This witness testified to that many meetings ago, and that information would be available to you through the Office of Community Affairs.
Okay,
But
thank you, that's all I need.
I'm Gerald Mercurio. It's Mercury, drop the Y at IO. Okay. I'm David Street in Ocean. My question for you is, could you explain the actual traffic pattern with the public roads, basically 35 and Deal Road, as to which are entrances and which are exits?
Mr. McCure, again, without, so I don't have to object to the question. He offered all that testimony, I think at 3 public hearings, and there was opportunity to question him at each of those. That public portion was closed. He's not subject to reopening of that questioning, otherwise this hearing would never finish. So the questioning tonight is limited to only that which he testified to today, not reopening old testimony.
I'm just trying to figure out which is westbound, which is eastbound.
Well, if you're looking at the picture up on the board, to the right is the east, to the left is the
I
west.
understand that. I'm just, when you were leaving the development, which is a left and which is a right here?
Again, that was offered.
Which is an entrance, which is an exit?
We can't rehash the entire application.
I
in each
understand.
meeting.
Thank you, sir.
He's happy to meet with you outside the meeting and go over the plans for you.
Joy Silva, Deal Road. When you were speaking about the urban jug handle, and we're speaking that it's going to be rush hour and people are going to want to make, you're using that urban jug handle to go westbound on Deal Road, you were saying, correct?
Yes.
And we're worried about intersections with yield signs, etc. Correct? How we're going to, people are going to cross without having traffic backup. Correct? You're saying there'll be no traffic backup as people within the development are trying to cross over while you have rush hour traffic going through to get westbound on Deal Road, correct?
The question that
At
was
25 miles an hour.
The question that was proposed to me by one of the board members was the internal 3-leg intersection that we are creating with this proposal.
Right.
Would there be any backups? And my answer was no.
And what makes you, all right, so the truck is coming in and going to go to make a delivery, and there's 20,000 cars behind them, and he's not, because most truck drivers these days are not union, but that's just, they're horrible. They're trying to make the turn, and you are going to get a backup because the truck is going to make a turn at a slower rate of speed.
You're being argumentative, ma'am. So,
But there will be a backup.
do you have a question
Now,
for this
speed,
witness?
yes, speed. You want to control speed? The gentleman, I had written it down.
I have
Urban
to
jug
object.
handles
This isn't
are
a question.
Nice
This is a
abstaining
statement.
objection. I'd
urban-
like a question,
you're saying
please, Ms. Silva.
With a consideration of being speed bumps. A lot of urban cities now have speed bumps throughout it to control speed. Speed bumps are a way to control.
I understand
speed.
that, ma'am. That's a comment, so you'll have to wait to the other portion to make that statement. But we did hear that previously from the gentleman in the back.
No, I know, but he wasn't speaking. He improperly spoke about the speed bumps, and
Well,
he
you
got
could
yelled
tell
at.
him that
So
if you like.
I'm bringing it up, speaking it to him because it is a way to control
Well, I
traffic.
have
That's
to
fine.
object because it's still improper to offer comments. At this
Right.
point, it's only proper to be asking questions of the
How will
expert.
you control the traffic? He's commented on a sign. People don't always listen to signs. So that's my comment. A way of
Okay.
people of listening
I'll-
to signs would be a
okay.
bump. They have to slow down.
So
They'll
we'll
read it
take
slow
another
down.
questioner. Thank you.
Can you have him answer?
Well, I can whether it's raised properly or not. Dan, were speed bumps considered?
They were not, no.
Okay,
Well,
and
if-
why
if I
weren't
may-
they considered?
If I may, the police indicated a strong preference not to have speed bumps on that.
As did
At our
DOT.
meeting last week.
As did DOT.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of conversations here about speed bumps and other things in prior meetings.
And the board
went
made it
through
very
it.
clear that they didn't want speed
Right,
bumps
made it
within that.
through.
I have to object, Mr. Chair. Do you have a gavel?
Please. Please. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Maria Bonifant, 20 Standish Drive.
Could you just spell your last name?
B-O, do you know French? It's a good child in French. Bon
I don't, so if you could.
Okay, just thought you seemed very educated, so I thought
Thank you.
I would. It's Bonenfant. And actually, you inspired my question because I was wondering if any thought had been given to any other form of pedestrian crossing, such as bridges or tunnels of any form like that, that might alleviate the flow of traffic.
No.
Is there a reason that that hasn't been considered, given the amount of concerns of the townspeople that have been presented to you?
It's just not appropriate in the context of this project.
Under what constraints is it not appropriate? Like, what is being considered that you aren't thinking this way?
When you have a significant amount of pedestrians, like hundreds trying to make a crossing, then it may warrant some type of grade separation, like a pedestrian bridge. We're talking about 70 townhouses, and the pedestrians that would be generated from those doesn't even come close to warranting something that you've suggested.
Has any consideration been given to the fact that there are additional pedestrians other than the inhabitants of the residences, such as there is a direct, there's a direct way for them. If it doesn't work, I'm pretty loud. That's fine. I can talk.
No, this is a.
No, this is a recorded session, so please.
Amy, you want to use my mic? Please. She can use this one.
I don't mind using this one while you figure that out, so I don't delay everybody, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Because what I'm thinking is that these are areas that have a lot of direct access for a lot of our school children, the high schools, and
That's correct.
I'm asking. I'm giving background to my question,
Okay, could you
which
just
is about the amount of. Okay, so have you considered the fact that there are other types of pedestrians entering this area, such as school children going from school to the types of establishments that you're offering, such as Chick-fil-A, which all 6 of my teenagers that hang out in my house on a daily basis.
Excuse me.
Have you considered it? That's the question. I'm giving background to the question.
Please, just
Has it been considered? Has the amount of I'm gathering from the objections that the answer to that question is no.
Right.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
She's gathering incorrectly.
Then please correct me. Has it
Okay,
been
please,
considered?
witness,
I'm asking
ma'am,
if it has
will
been
you
considered.
please let her speak? Thank you. Okay. No, you will when she speaks.
Please clarify.
What I was objecting to was the anecdotal information about her teenagers in her home or her personal experience. At this point,
Right.
the only proper
I understand.
direct question as to the testimony.
And I instructed the audience that this is only questioning regarding the testimony. You were going to get a chance, and you can say this, and you can make your hypothetical question in the future, not for this witness at this point.
But I'm simply okay. The question was about safer crossings other than crosswalks.
Regarding your own personal experience, so I don't want to argue with you,
regarding
ma'am.
my personal experience. I'm saying regarding what I know about the town. Okay, which we all
Okay,
know about
that's
this
fine.
town.
All
Okay.
right. So he can't answer that question right now, okay?
Is it not their responsibility to consider?
Please.
So the answer is no, it's not.
I don't know what his answer is.
Direct question. If the direct question is, did you consider the children and other people other than the townhomes using the crosswalk? What would the answer to that question be?
All of the crosswalks have been designed to accommodate all pedestrians, whether they originated from the townhouse portion of this proposal or elsewhere.
That's inconsistent with how you answered me. That is inconsistent with how you answered me.
You please must stop, or I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Please. Please. Okay, just please. You will get your chance.
Dan, if I may, if you want to grab that, just as a follow-up. When you answered that the number of people using the crosswalks would be those coming from the townhomes, you were speaking about the crosswalk going directly from the townhomes into the project, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that was just that one that was being pointed to. You weren't speaking with regard to all crosswalks throughout the project, just the ones in that three-legged intersection.
That is correct.
Hello, my name is Ryan Dunlap. I live off of Woolly Way. We're having a lot of talks about pedestrians, but I think one that we're neglecting to recognize is the wildlife also in this large plot of land.
So you have to ask him direct
Yeah,
questions
yes.
regarding his testimony.
Yes, the testimony.
His
including
testimony was about the urban
Yes, this jug
jug
handle.
handle.
What precautions are being made to ensure that this wildlife that was located where this jug handle was built, what's being done to ensure that wildlife that now will be covered
Sorry,
with this
sir,
jug handle?
that's not relevant to this.
It has to do with the jug handle, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect.
No, it doesn't. No.
These wildlife will be affected by the
No,
jug
what you're
handle.
saying,
It is
sir-
their environment,
okay.
sir. This
I'm not
does
gonna
have to
argue
do
with
with the
you.
jug handle.
Mr. Chair, I believe that to the extent that the wildlife was considered in the design of the jug handle, I can certainly have the witness answer that.
The presence or lack thereof of wildlife doesn't come into play to how you design an urban jug handle.
My question is what precautions and what measures are being taken for this?
To protect wildlife?
Yes, which is the area that you were wishing to build.
And again,
It's not my area of
right.
expertise.
We're only testifying as to traffic. If the comment that I'm hearing is that there's an issue with regard to displacing wildlife, that's something that can be offered at the time of the comment period. But this
I tried to explain it to this young man, but
this development is fully conforming with the ordinance. There is no requirement to address the wildlife as part of the ordinance. If that's a concern that this gentleman has or the general public does, then perhaps it's something that the planning board and or the governing body can consider in the future. But this is zoned and slated for development, notwithstanding the wildlife that may be living there. So.
David Weiner, 1216 Walnut Avenue, Wanamasa, 07712. Firstly, to the witness, has it not been your experience so far at the sessions that you've attended and we've witnessed that, and in other areas where you've testified other than this particular subject, is counsel for the applicant supposed to be opining any more than we are?
I have to object,
It's
Mr.
a question.
Chair.
It's an interrogatory.
It's
Has an upward
This
inflection.
is not an interrogatory.
It's an interrogatory, which I don't think. Are you an attorney, sir? Are you
Mr.
representing anybody?
Me.
Now, Mr. Chair.
Not
this
here,
is
sir.
Not, this
And
is,
you know it.
Mr. Chair.
Excuse me, I don't know anything. I'm asking a question.
No,
in
I don't know
conformity
anything either.
with the rules and regulations that you set.
Procedurally, the questions are to his testimony and his expertise as traffic, not as to his the legal procedures of the board.
That's correct.
Second
Sustained.
question. In your vast experience doing what you do and being before the public, is it untoward and have you not witnessed, and is it illogical not to preface a question with a short foundation so people understand the question?
Again,
You as a witness, not the lawyer. I'm not asking
I have
her,
to
I'm
object.
asking you.
I'm not
I
answering.
sustain her objection. Every witness has their own style, sir.
Is it not true that public comment may not formally begin until the applicant?
I have to object. Mr. DeSario is here as a traffic expert, not a legal expert or a
Sustained.
procedural expert.
He's been through this hundreds of times
I
by
have
his
to
own
object.
admission.
He's not being
Sustained, sir.
offered for his opinion on how hearings are run.
You said you spoke to somebody from the police department. You didn't identify who, but counsel did. Was that a
Your
cap-
engineer did as well.
I'm sorry.
Your engineer, Mr. Fitzgerald,
I'm
did
sorry,
as well.
I was in the corner. I couldn't see who it was. He sounds much younger than he appears. No, that's a compliment.
Wow.
I think that's a compliment to me.
Now, when you spoke to this police captain, what did he say to you in terms, did he give his opinion as to the efficacy of this plan? I believe you had testified earlier that he said something positive about this plan.
He liked the three-leg all-way stop controlled intersection. He endorsed the active speed limit signs and even referred to an example that he is aware of where it thanks you with the display thank you when you comply with the speed limit. So without speaking for him, I think he was very appreciative of the plan and thought it was a good design.
Did you not also testify earlier that his titular superior was not present for this meeting?
I did not know.
You didn't say that somebody was not at the meeting?
I did not know.
Another officer? No. The traffic expert officer?
The question earlier from one of the residents was, did I meet with Todd Gregory on Thursday?
Okay.
And my response was no. I met with him a while ago.
Is it not true that a document or more than one document, letter, missive, has been issued by a representative of the police department in objection to the jug handle? Are you aware of that letter?
I am aware that they've issued letters, yes.
And the letters were not in support?
I have to object. He's asking the witness to characterize the letter. The letter speaks for itself. It's part of the board record. Mr. Weiner is free to review it, as I know the board members have as well.
Why is a question about a letter that he acknowledges exists not appropriate for this setting?
There's
Mr. Chairman, not the council. I'm asking the chairman.
What is your question, sir?
The question was, what, gentlemen? Sir, do you remember the question I asked you?
The chairman just asked you a direct
I asked you, sir.
Restate
Can you
the question.
restate the question, please?
Okay. If the letter that you, or letters, missives that you say do exist from the police department, I asked, were they in favor of this proposal as it exists now?
And I'm going to state my objection again. My witness is not here to characterize a letter and offer his opinion of the letter. The letter speaks for itself.
Was
So
the letter?
I place an
I'm sorry.
objection.
Didn't mean to speak
Objection
over counsel.
sustained. Do you have the letter, sir?
A gentleman here has a letter. We have it right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are you driving at?
I'm asking the expert his opinion about.
He doesn't
the
want to
letter.
give his opinion, so would you?
No, the council doesn't want to give his
Right.
opinion.
Well,
He didn't state that.
that's his counsel, sir.
Actually, he's not. He works for the applicant.
To clarify for
She's
the
not his
record,
counsel.
it isn't a to clarify for the record, Mr. Chair, it isn't a matter of the council wanting to give an opinion or him wanting to. I'm placing a legal objection on the record as to an
And I
inappropriate
sustained
question.
it. I sustained it.
I'm sorry. What did I get overruled on now?
You can go to the next question.
You want me to go to the letter?
Whatever
you asked
you
me
like.
if I had a letter.
Let's see what you got.
Okay. This letter is dated April 12, 2019, from Todd Gregory, Ocean Police Traffic
I
Bureau.
have to object. If there's a specific question, the letter's part of the record. We're not going to grandstand and have now each piece of evidence read into the record.
I've got one document, not each, one document. And the chair asked me if I had it.
Go ahead.
I do.
Go ahead.
And the applicable section is, the urban jug handle concept is a poor fit in this area, considering the number of driveways to and from no less than 7 businesses. and
What's the date of the
multiple
letter, sir?
businesses. I said earlier, sir, April 12, 2019.
Which was
Thank you.
Just, Mr. Chair, if I can object to using this letter, that is not a current review of the current plan. That was prior to the recent submission on June 3rd. It's no longer relevant, as it's no longer regarding the plan that was moved in.
That's sustained, sir.
In your opinion, will this development necessitate a greater police presence in the area?
I have to object, Mr. This is a traffic expert, not a police department expert.
That's correct.
He's testified
Sustained,
about
sir.
police department issues at this hearing, young miss. I was going to call you young lady. I apologize.
Feel free. Don't
No,
call me
no,
old.
sir.
Don't call
Sir,
me old
Mr.
lady.
Weiner.
Call me young lady.
Mr.
Miss
Weiner.
Weiner, please.
Weiner.
Somebody complains a lot.
Weiner.
Thank you.
Weiner, okay.
No. I don't make fun of Virilli. You don't make fun of Weiner. Okay?
You might. I don't know what you do behind my back, but anyway.
But Mr.
I'm just going to tell you
I
something,
don't do
sir.
anything behind people's backs.
I don't know
go
what
right
you
to their
do.
face.
All I'm telling you is this. You're talking to this gentleman about what the police said. He testified about particular things on the urban jug handle. And do you have any particular questions regarding his testimony?
I've been asking questions about his testimony, sir.
That's not about his testimony, sir.
Yes, he did. It's about the jug handle, and he mentioned the police department.
It's about the jug, and he mentioned the police department. So what is your
That's part of
question?
his I already asked the question. I'm
No,
moving on
it-
by the next question until I get objected to.
Okay. And I'd like to I'd like to place the objection formally on the record.
Oh, preemptively?
No.
I didn't say anything yet.
As to,
Sustained.
I'm glad that you
Sustained.
think that this is
Mr. Weiner.
it's not a joke.
I'm not laughing.
Come on, you're making a joke out of this, Mr. Weiner, and it's really not appreciated by the board members.
Mr.
Just letting you know that.
And so you know it. I don't like my name misspoken on purpose. And I'm telling you
I
right
don't
to
know.
your face, I don't
know how to say your
okay?
name.
Mr. Verrilli, if I may, in
Be
response to
respectful to me, I'll be respectful to you.
You haven't been respectful in many meetings.
Oh, I haven't, huh?
Now, look,
In vers-
gentlemen, we're not going to get into this. Let's keep on the issues.
We can do
Ms.
it here. We
Franco?
can do it out there.
Yes.
We can do it any way you want.
Okay. Can we please?
So again,
Please.
just so
Discussion, sir. Just
I
discussion.
understand, but can we be respectful on both sides? This
Good,
is
as long as it's both sides. Thank you.
Both sides.
Thank you.
Mr. Weiner, if I may put my
Oh,
objection on the
certainly.
record.
My name correctly stated. So
Thank you. The objection, just because the witness mentioned the police as part of his testimony with regard to enforcement in Title 39, he did not offer any testimony as to police presence, the volume of police presence, or the need for police presence. So the objection is based on the fact that the question was inappropriate as it was not related to
It goes
testimony.
beyond the scope of the direct. Is that what your
Correct.
objection is, Mr. Chair?
And that's sustained.
shocking.
Yeah, Mr. Weiner, if you could cut down on the comments, please, because I really think that's being adverse to the position you're trying to take. Okay.
Wait, excuse me, sir, but we've been deemed as objectors since we've been coming here, and I made a comment.
I have
Sir,
that is
that has
presumptive.
nothing to do
I'm
with
responding
the
to the
questioning
chair.
here. We're going to be fair to everybody here, and what's fair right now is to ask questions that can be answered by the witness. Okay, thank you.
Has counsel not indicated in the past that it is not the responsibility of the applicant for the safety outside the area?
I did not testify to that this evening.
I didn't ask you. I asked if counsel had stated that. I'll rephrase. Is it the responsibility of the applicant to be concerned with or deal with at all legally the safety of the area? Excuse me, I haven't finished the question to
I'm
object.
objecting to your use of the term legally. He's not here as an attorney to interpret the law. He's here to offer
Procedurally.
testimony.
Past practice and your expertise within your field. Is it the responsibility of the applicant to police or be responsible for the safety of citizens and other people outside of the development? Yes or no?
I don't understand the question in the context of the testimony I offered this evening.
I think you do, but thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We're going to take a break now.
Yeah, we'll talk. We're gonna stop.
Yeah. I'm here all summer.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to announce that this meeting is going to end at 10 o'clock, but I think I announced that in the beginning of the meeting as well. Just wanted to reiterate that fact. So this gentleman can step up and...
Arnold Zimmerman, 17 Carberry, off of Deal Road. By way of your schematic up here, when you exit this particular development and what you're creating, and you exit onto Deal Road, how wide is that?
I don't have the exact dimension.
Can you get that for us then, please? So in other words, I don't want to ask questions and then have them tabled, so I cannot get an answer, or I'm saying, well, I was in the last meeting and that's already closed out.
Okay.
I don't want that to happen.
Okay.
We'll have that answer for you in a minute.
Okay. When you were planning this, did you take into account that a big truck goes in, but how about the truck egressing, going out? How much time, or what did you do? What did you think of? How did you plan about that truck entering, but exiting as well, onto Deal Road?
So, just so everyone understands, I'm not the site engineer.
No, but
I can answer your question.
Okay, good.
The site has been designed to accommodate both cars and trucks to enter and exit the driveways as appropriate.
Doesn't show it up there, though. Would you agree?
Say again?
Would you agree it does not show it up there? You can see that there's a large turning radius for a tractor trailer to go in around the curve, the jug handle, but there is no opportunity for that truck to get out of that driveway. Instead, he'll be on the eastbound traffic of Deal Road heading toward the beach.
So referring to Exhibit A78, which is now up on the screen, that is the right turn of a WB67 coming out of the Deal Road right in, right out driveway,
Okay.
and making the right turn onto Deal Road.
Are you making Deal Road wider to accomplish this?
There is a widening along the entire frontage of Deal Road, yes.
My question then would be, is this widening east of 35?
Yes.
And how far, what distance would that be going east?
Down to Logan Road.
So,
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is, again, I have to object. This is going outside the scope of what he testified to tonight. This was discussed at many prior hearings as to the off-tracked roadway improvements.
for the people who are asking questions, not to be argumentative, my question is, based upon the fact that for many reasons, I've had many surgeries in the last 5 years. There are many meetings that I have not been able to attend. So for that, and then to say to people who have been physically unable to attend, you cannot ask that question because you are too late.
I understand, sir. Could you instruct your witness to answer the best he can
Well,
for Mr. Zimmerman's benefit?
Correct.
And Mr. Chair, my concern is, and I'm happy to have that, and if Mr. Zimmerman wants to meet with Mr. Desario, as Mr. Desario met with other members of the public to go over things in greater detail, he can. But if, out of sympathy and empathy for Mr. Zimmerman not being able to be here, if we say that he can now go back and ask questions from old hearings, then that would mean that every other member of the public is entitled to reopen the hearing as it relates to the old question. So while I understand that you couldn't get here, but I didn't write the municipal land use law. And the state regulates how these hearings should go, and the applicant has to object to asking questions that have already been testified to, and that portion has been closed.
I'm going to have to sustain that, Mr. Zimmerman.
I thought you would.
I'm sorry.
When you were planning this particular project, was it taken into account with the township police or whoever keeps the records? How many accidents have occurred at this particular intersection in a year's time?
I did not do an accident study, no, sir.
Okay. Would you think that that would be appropriate?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because the applicant is making improvements to Deal Road in 35.
You're making improvements, but the improvements are not going to slow down the impatient driver. Would you agree?
The improvements will help traffic operate more efficiently along Deal Road, particularly westbound.
How many cars are, if they went end to end, would go around that jug handle?
I don't know the answer.
I would think as an expert, you should know that.
that distance can be calculated, it has no bearing on the design whatsoever.
Oh, absolutely not. I agree. I disagree with you.
I have to object. It's not time for Mr. Zimmerman to agree or disagree.
Sustain.
He can ask questions.
Okay. So in other words, I can ask the question and not get an answer, and then I'm shut down by an attorney who's going to say you can't answer.
Mr. Zimmerman, with all due respect, you can ask a question regarding
So in other words,
his testimony this evening.
Okay, you did not take into account accidents that have occurred in the past, or that this particular congestion, potential congestion, could now create further accident problems. You did not, correct?
I have not, as I answered before, I have not done an accident study of the area.
When you do your work, don't you normally do an accident report?
No.
May I ask the question, who is paying this gentleman's bill?
No, I don't think so.
Pardon?
You cannot.
Cannot ask that, okay.
Well, no, I don't have a problem with that
Okay.
question.
Go ahead then.
This is the applicant's witness, so the applicant has hired this witness. He's been qualified as an expert, just like every expert witness that's being presented was hired by the applicant, and just like the town's witnesses are hired by the town.
Then I'll ask you a question. If you lived here in Ocean Township within the purview of this particular project, wouldn't you expect that accident problems should be evaluated before such a project was presented?
Well, I have to object.
I'm
only
asking
to
you
one-
for his opinion.
No. I don't object to the question. I just object to the qualification if you lived in Ocean. He's not here to testify as if he was
Okay.
a resident. If
Any
the question
town.
is a traffic
Any
expert,
town.
I'm fine with
This
it.
development was going to be any town, anywhere in the country. Wouldn't you think that that would be an absolutely appropriate thing to do?
The township submission requirements do not require an accident study. The DOT permitting requirements do not require an accident study. So the answer to your question is no.
Okay. Now, if I go to the township here and I talk to the police and I get those records, can this then be reopened at a future time? Because I do not have that information at hand.
What I can offer, Mr. Chair, once the questioning is done and this is closed, we're not going to bring him back for reopening. However, Mr. Zimmerman and any member of the public is free to present any exhibits to the board and bring any witnesses to the board that they may want to in order to substantiate the documentation.
Okay. What type of meeting, for my edification, would be the time that would happen?
After the applicant is done with their presentation of their case.
Okay. That would need tonight or some future date?
You'll have to ask her.
I would like it to be tonight, but I'm being told that it's not going to be open for the public, so it would be at the next meeting, which would be in 1 week. Presuming that we can get through the submission of the revised plan and any questions that may be as a result of the revised plan.
Okay.
My hope would be that there would be an opportunity for the public portion to begin. I would like it to begin tonight, but my best guess is it won't begin until next week. I'd be happy to stay. until-
I'm sorry, I have another question. You mentioned that in your testimony that there would be a greater police presence. Is that correct?
No.
Am I wrong?
He did not say that.
Did not say that. Okay.
No, sir.
Will there be any traffic signals in any way so as to control people, drivers who are now traveling through this area, so people for pedestrian and vehicular safety?
Mr. Chair, there was about 45 minutes worth of testimony offered by
And
this witness
I'm
as to that.
I'm asking the question. I have to ask the question first, so you can either answer yes or no.
If you're talking about the red, amber, and green traffic signals, no.
Inside this entire development, there's going to be no traffic light. Is that correct?
Are you asking me about a red, amber, and green
Yes,
traffic signal?
yes.
The answer is no.
No. Okay. You mentioned that studies were done as to the traffic on Route 35 and Deal Road, and you didn't answer, but your attorney did, and that would say it was in March. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, I have to object. I didn't answer any questions. I put my objection on the record as to the asking of the question in the first place, and I responded to the board chair. I have to object. The testimony as to traffic studies has been closed. What I offered into the record was I was happy to share that with any member of the public electronically to save them the cost of paying the photocopying.
As a pro se, then, is it not within my best interest to be able to ask a question? And that is, you did say it was done in March, correct? This is now to the attorney, correct?
I said that. I thought I said it
Distinctly.
was. No, I thought I said it was in the summer.
In the summertime.
Yeah. Last summer.
Okay? And what time of day would that have been?
Again.
I mean, these are pertinent questions.
And there was 3 hearings of testimony and questions from the
Mr.
secretary.
Zimmerman,
I missed it, so I can't
It was
ask those
testified
questions.
as to in prior testimony.
The reason for the question is, at certain times of the year, this intersection becomes extremely congested. So if you're now going to congest it further, I'm looking for the safety of the people who live here.
Yes, but the issue has already been discussed at previous meetings.
So it's shut down.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman.
I would add, Mr. Chair, that all of these meetings are on tape and on the YouTube channel and are available for anybody to watch any of the prior hearings.
Who's ever?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Renee Amelio. I live off of Timber. I live on Timber Drive over in Ocean. I'm actually asking some questions on behalf of my daughter, Tyler Kaplan, who could not stay.
Miss Amelio, 2 things. One, I just have to ask you to spell your last
Sure,
name.
it's Amelio, Amellio, 6 Timber Drive.
And then secondly, your daughter may have posed the questions to you, but unfortunately, under the law, you can't speak on her behalf.
then
So these should be your
ask.
questions.
That's fine.
Fine.
Okay,
As long
and
as-
they're short, I promise.
Take your time.
For clarification, and maybe I missed it during your testimony, are you going to be able to make a left-hand turn coming out of that exit onto Deal Road, like you could from the library?
At this one, you cannot.
Okay, perfect. You also mentioned in your testimony that coming out, that people would be able to make a left-hand turn onto Logan Road. What is the amount of distance that a car is able to maneuver over into that left-hand lane without causing
Well, no, as I understand it, that wasn't testified to tonight.
That's
That
correct.
isn't relative to the.
Well, he specifically mentioned being able to make a left-hand turn onto Logan Road. You can go back and check your records. And I just wanted to know what length or how much distance there's going to be between making a right-hand turn and being able to maneuver over into the left-hand lane for Logan Road. That's all. No question.
With all due respect, I did not testify to that tonight. At previous hearings,
Well, you
I
mentioned,
did,
you
but not
specifically
tonight.
mentioned being able to make a left-hand turn onto Logan Road.
I don't recall that this evening. I'm sorry.
You did. I just asked what the distance was in being able to maneuver from the right-hand lane over to the left-hand lane to make that left-hand turn.
All right, so
If you, I mean, I don't recall. So if
I don't either, but out of respect for the resident, I'd be happy to answer
Thank you.
the question. Are you talking about if you're heading eastbound on Logan, making a left turn into?
No, when you're making
Okay.
a right-hand turn onto Deal, so you'll be heading west, and to be able to maneuver over to the left-hand lane to make a left hand at that light.
Oh, okay. Now I understand the question. That distance, and I don't remember, Jeremy, if you remember what that length is, but that proposed access, so I'm going to call it the westerly access along Deal Road, has been shifted farther east than it originally was, because originally it lined up opposite the near side jug handle if you come in 35 northbound, and we've pushed it farther east. That exact distance, I'm not sure how far it is, but it's several hundreds of feet.
So it's enough for a car to maneuver from the right-hand lane over to the left-hand lane at that light?
To turn out of the site and get into the
To
left
the
turn
left
lane, yes, it
Okay,
is.
perfect. And I have one more question. So you mentioned being able to enter from Route 35 as well as from Deal Road. And my question to you is, how much accommodation has been made for that bus route on the corner that allows the bus to go bare left when they're exiting the bus stop, and then cars being able to maneuver to the right to get into that entrance?
So as part of our proposal,
Mhm.
we are providing a formal bus turnout.
Oh, okay.
So when the bus is stopped and picking up or discharging passengers, they'll be completely out of any travel lanes heading northbound on Route 35.
Okay, so how are they going to be able to, though? They'll be out of the travel lane, but
Yes.
And bear with me, this is your area of expertise, not mine. So when the bus right now drops off and picks up, they're kind of on, not really in the lane, for lack of a better word.
They are in the lane.
Okay.
The lane that comes off the far
Yeah.
side jug
Mhm.
handle. So there's an additional lane that comes off the far side
Oh,
jug
you're going to
handle.
make an additional lane for that? Are you making an additional lane for the bus? That's what I'm a little
Yes,
confused.
the bus will have its own turnout,
Okay,
separate
perfect.
and apart from the 35
Okay,
lanes.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Andrew Sadikov. I live 415 Bound Road. So I have two questions. So the first, in your testimony today, you suggested stop signs as opposed to other signs, and I'm not entirely sure I understood why. Can you go over? I know you'd mentioned a yield sign being suggested, and that you disagreed with that.
I'm not sure of your question. I
So
will,
on the
I will
three-way-
tell you that we have the three-way intersection. It's always stop controlled. The only yield sign that we're proposing is for the channelized right. As you're coming off 35 and you come to that three-legged intersection and you get into the channelized right turn lane. That's
Okay.
a yield sign.
I have another question, and so you mentioned I don't know the proper terminology for a red, amber, green traffic light, but is there a point at which traffic is to the extent to where that is legally mandated to be there, and do you not foresee that happening here?
The answer to your first question is yes, there are legal mandates, and the answer to your second question is no, we don't warrant a traffic signal within the interior of the site or at any of the driveways.
And final question, so you'd mentioned previously to the public that they are not traffic experts and cannot offer their opinion. What separates?
I did not say that, sir.
What separates the police officer who you spoke with from anybody else to be able to give that opinion? Why are they credible in that sense? I just want to get an understanding for myself.
Again, I have to object. That's not a question for Dan. I will offer to the
Please
board
do.
that the board sends out letters. The board asks various committees within the township to review a set of plans and asks for comments back, and that includes the police department. And I believe that the questions were as a result of the memo issued by a sergeant at the request of the board, which is the common practice.
That's good, thank you.
But you'll be able to give your opinion, so will anyone else. At the end of the whole proceedings, the last phase of it is public comment, which
Yes.
can include your opinion. It's you can't give your opinion at this point in the hearing. I think that's
Right.
what we're
No, my question was directly to his testimony, to the credibility of the person who he spoke with.
The applicant didn't put forward the credibility or not. This was a consultant that the town asked for their opinion based on his expertise.
Right, and that
we
answers
don't
my
know
question.
as to the credibility of that individual.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Diane Sarmont, 192 Oakhurst Road. My question is about the sort of residual effect on the lower intersection from the three-way stop. Okay? So the way I see it, there's no stopping the amount of traffic that's coming off of Deal Road westbound into the shopping center. Am I correct in that?
If you're asking, can anybody make a right off a deal
Yeah.
and come into the site, the answer
Yeah.
is yes.
Okay, So people could theoretically be using that as a way to skirt the light, maybe. So we could sort of have a little bit with the stop now, the three-way stop. We could have a little bit of a build-up, theoretically, at that three-way stop sign. And my question is then, so if I want to go east on Deal Road, I'm going to come out and I'm going to make a left onto that little access road to go over to the light at Logan Road. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if the traffic doesn't stop and it's backing up there, and I'm on that one-lane road trying to make a left onto the access road that's parallel to Deal Road, I'm basically standing there blocking up all the traffic behind me.
As I testified to previously this evening, the internal three-way intersection always stop control will not have any queuing issues, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jackie Wenzel, 610 Deal Road. I was going in and out quite a bit trying to make sure everybody was comfortable, so you may have answered this question. But what is the speed limit going through on the urban jug handle?
We are going to post it for 25.
25. So this urban jug handle will be, if I was to go to the Chick-fil-A or any of the businesses, you'll be turning off the jug handle into this site?
At some points of access, yes.
So we're going through a 25 and then I want to go in. Is there like a little, like a lane to the right that we kind of get in to stop to make the right turn?
No.
So we'll just like at 25 make the turn?
No, you will slow down to turn into a driveway, just
what-
like you slow down to turn into your residential driveway along your residential street.
Well, I live on Deal Road and it's very hard for me to get
I
into my
have to
driveway
put an
many
objection on
times.
the record.
Well, Well, okay.
Just
No,
for-
I'm just
just
trying to
for
think
all-
logistically, perhaps it might be an idea to consider to have a little cutoff
Again,
lane
I
off of the
have
jug
to-
handle. so
You're
you can
rendering
make
your
the right-
opinion again. Could you just ask questions of this witness, please, regarding his testimony? Thank you.
I did. I asked about turning in and
Yes,
was
no,
there
no.
a slowdown? Okay. So, my next question. Need my glasses. Okay. Has there been further study? I know it's come up at previous meetings, but you didn't have an answer for me then. Has there been further study with the volume of traffic with the Chick-fil-A business? Because it has a special condition. When you Google it, it comes up of,
I
traffic
have
guards.
to,
I sustain the objection.
again, and for the record, so the public doesn't, these questions were asked at prior hearings.
That's correct.
But they didn't have an answer.
That portion was closed. We offered limited testimony as to the jug handle only.
Correct.
But if a previous question wasn't answered, it never can come up again,
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
even if it applies to the traffic expert. Because I'm afraid if it
It
comes
doesn't
up
apply
when...
to his testimony, though, of tonight.
Well, tonight he's talking about the urban jug handle, and
Correct.
I'm talking about that too.
Okay.
I'm talking about the flow of traffic on the urban jug handle for special conditions. How do you perceive us managing that, the flow of traffic? I know
Well,
it's
let
just
him
about the
answer
flow.
that. That's
Okay.
a great question. How do you perceive that, Dan?
The jug handle as designed can accommodate all the traffic associated with the uses that are part of this development program, including a Chick-fil-A, if that's indeed what the quick serve restaurant will be.
Right, and I had just said that from what my own research was at the
I
time,
have to
Chick-fil-A
object.
is
We
not
can't offer
the same.
testimony
Sustained.
as to
Okay.
her own research. At the end of the hearing,
Yes.
Ms. Wenzel can get up and provide any argument, testimony, witnesses, or otherwise as to why she thinks the applicant inadequately presented the application,
That's agreed, Counselor.
such as not presenting additional counts. But it's not appropriate at this time for her to offer testimony.
Okay, and will there be a traffic light for the people leaving the site making that right? Or they're just going to pause and wait for a break in the traffic?
No traffic lights are proposed.
At all? Even at
any
the
of
Deal
jug-
Road site?
Well, we're connecting into the Logan Road traffic signal, so there's the ability, if you need signalized access onto or off of Deal Road, to come down to the Logan Road intersection.
So they are aligned?
For the jug handle, as depicted on that exhibit, which again is exhibit, just so the record is clear, that is exhibit
Do you have your
A77.
pointer? Could you show me? Do you have your little light?
Well, I'll explain it to
Okay.
you. There's a right-in, right-out driveway on 35 depicted, and there's a right-in, right-out driveway on Deal Road depicted. There are no traffic signals at either of those access points. Logan,
No. The testimony as to the connection to Logan Road, the
Let's see.
improvements to the light were all made at a prior hearing, and that testimony has been closed. The
That's
question
correct.
was appropriate as to whether or not there is a light proposed at either of the entrances or exits of the urban jug handle, and the witness testified no.
That's correct.
Is that a consideration possibly going forward?
no.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Will
Just
there,
state your name for the record again.
Arnold Zimmerman, if you're heading north on Route 35 and you're anticipating making the jug handle, is there a separate lane that is going to be created in order to have the traffic flow strictly for, you'll have a right-hand turn onto Deal Road heading east, another lane that will go straight through, because if everybody's going to back up behind that, people cannot turn right. Has that been a consideration?
There is an additional lane on 35 for somebody to get into to make a right turn into the site.
Okay, so in other words, there'll be one lane, but not a second lane that will enable someone who wants to go through and turn to the right to ease congestion. If they live, they're traveling at 35, they would like to turn right onto Deal Road.
If they want to turn right onto Deal Road and they're coming northbound on 35,
That's correct.
you take the near side jug handle onto Deal Road
There
to
will
make
be
a right
there
turn.
will be a turnoff onto Deal Road.
Yes, that existing near side jug handle will allow you to continue to make a right turn onto Deal from 35 northbound.
Okay. Will there be courtesy arrows when you're on Deal Road heading west? You want to make a left onto 35. Will there be an arrow, courtesy arrow, so people can now flow? There was to hasten traffic.
That approach, oh, that's yours?
Yep.
Oh, you didn't listen to turn it off.
Oh, I did. It's my alarm.
Oh, time to go to sleep or
No,
leave?
take
Okay.
medication.
Okay, make sure you do
Alright.
that then. Right now, today, that westbound approach gets a green arrow. That green arrow will continue to exist with this proposed development.
There is no green arrow. Oh, maybe there is.
Mr.
Maybe
Chair,
there is.
again.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dennis Howlett, 1638 Holbrook Street. I got my address wrong. That's how tired I am. Holy moly. So I'm really depending upon you to set me straight on this question. And I'm trying to. I was concentrating on your testimony tonight, and I understand there's a lot of testimony about the side crosswalks and the pedestrian traffic, and I'm very happy to hear that because I hadn't heard that in the past. And the reason why I have a question is, and I'm not allowed to know if I'm allowed to ask this question, but I'd answered prior if there had been a study about bicycle and pedestrian traffic in preparation for these plans. And I know the answer was no, that this was set up to be, the entire Wawa area set up to be utilized by car traffic. Has something changed between then and now that you would have the information necessary to do the sidewalk? Not sidewalks, the crosswalks?
Sidewalks.
I meant crosswalks, sorry.
Right. Okay, crosswalks were always part of this development proposal.
Yes.
Always.
Yes, but you were talking about it a lot tonight. You were doing a lot of explanation of detail about that, and it was all very good.
In the context of the latest iteration of the urban jug handle design.
Okay.
To inform the board as well as the public of where the crosswalk locations would be as
Right.
part of that latest design.
Okay.
Yes.
So my question is, was that done without a study of pedestrian and bicycle traffic?
Well, there's no formal study. However, you provide crosswalks to accommodate the most likely pedestrian routes that people would take to and from origins and destinations. So as it relates to accommodating those paths, I would say yes, we've accommodated or studied pedestrians. And I would remind you, although I did not testify to it tonight, there is a
Well, then don't remind.
there's a bike path proposed along Deal Road.
So the study that you're relying on for the crosswalks, was that made with estimates from DOT or something?
It has nothing to do with pedestrian volumes. You look at where a pedestrian would originate from and where they would be destined to, and you accommodate that path if there's a crossing with a crosswalk. That's what we did with this latest design. Whether 50 pedestrians use it or no pedestrians use it, that's how the crosswalks are located.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That's okay.
Evening.
Hi.
My name is Adam Weisberg, 5 Oak Tree Lane. If we can bring up the exhibit that shows where the truck is on the left side.
Can I just ask you to spell your last name? I just didn't hear it.
Adam Weisberg, Weisberg, 5 Oak Tree. Can we just bring up the exhibit that shows where the truck on the urban, the revised urban jug handle, where the truck was making a left, using the turn?
Yes, so that's Exhibit A78 that's now on the screen.
Okay. I just want to take a look at this one over here. Because
Mr. Weisberg, just take the microphone with you.
this is my question, and I may have heard this either during your direct examination or the testimony to the gentleman in the brown shirt, but did you say when the truck was coming, there's supposed to be, I thought I saw a truck on one of the... Yeah, can we have the truck one, sir?
That is the truck one.
Where is it? Oh, okay, there it is. There we go.
Yep.
All right, and this is, and I may have misunderstood you, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating a part of your testimony. Did you say that when the truck comes in, part of the trailer is going to hit the back curb, and part of the trailer is going to hit the front of the cab? Is going to hit the tire? It's going to hit that curb there too?
No.
You didn't. Okay. What can you clarify what you meant?
That
this
design.
drawing. I realize it's just a drawing, and I realize that it looks a little deceiving to the eye. But to me, it looks like the trailer and the truck cab are going to have a hard time making that turn.
And that design can accommodate that design vehicle. What you may be referring to, and sometimes it's a little confusing, as the truck's making that right turn in and that path is depicting its path, there's two lines on the outside of that turn. One is the wheel path and one is the overhang of the cab as it's making its turn. So the wheels don't necessarily hit any of the curbs as depicted on that plan, but you will have a slight overhang of that triangular island by the cab itself.
Okay. Now, I understand where you're coming from. Now, on this is a divider between the two lanes, right?
Concrete island, yes, sir.
Okay. If the truck was to, and this is just going to be a painted line down the road here?
Yes.
Okay. If this truck's making a wide turn, is it possible, and I don't know if it is or it isn't, but it seems to me that sometimes a truck makes a wide turn and it has to complete the turn by going into the oncoming lane. And will that affect traffic coming out this way?
As designed, it's not requiring him to make a wide turn. If a truck driver were to make a wide turn, yes, that would impact people coming in the other direction.
Okay. Next question is that if the driver wanted to come up to here, would he be able to make a left-hand turn to make his delivery up here?
Yes.
Okay. What is the angle and in degrees that he will be able to cut that turn and get up that way for an 18-wheeler?
That's a 90-degree turn
Okay.
as designed.
All right. And is this going to be wide enough here for him to swing his cargo around?
Yes.
Okay. The next question would be if we can bring up the other exhibit that shows the road down here. In this particular entrance here, I take it this is a crosswalk. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many car lengths would you say, this is the average car length, the sedan, would you say is between the entrance here and this crosswalk here where pedestrians may be? Roughly.
You got a distance, gentlemen?
That's okay. I want him to figure it out.
I'll let you know.
So it's 120 feet. So here's the crosswalk right here, right? And you have traffic coming in through this entrance right here. Am I correct?
It is about 120 feet from the curb line on Deal Road to that first crosswalk.
Okay, and what will be the speed? And what's the speed limit of this road when they're coming off? Even if they're decreasing their speed.
Well,
what's the speed
Deal
limit?
Road is signed for 40 miles per hour.
Okay, and
They'll
so-
have to slow upon entry.
Right, and you would do that in any driveway.
Exactly.
I get that. You do it at home.
Right.
So now, but they're going to have to decrease their speed to enter. What's the speed is going to be posted here? 20 miles an hour?
25.
25 miles an hour. So I guess the question really is when you discussed this with the captain of the police department, was he aware of the 120 feet and decreasing the speed while there's potential pedestrians right here?
Yes.
Okay. And that's my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Scott Sharp, Watamassa.
Hi.
Can we go back to the upper one now? One quick question, and I only have one question. If I'm on and I'm looking at this jug handle here, if I'm on the sidewalk coming up here, do I have to walk down to here? I'm trying to find out, how do I get to here, to that sidewalk?
You can cross directly across the 35 driveway.
But there's no crosswalk
Yes, there is.
indicated there.
Yes, there is.
Well, this is a crosswalk here. I just didn't see it. I thought it would be marked here. This is a stop, I assume.
The crosswalk across the driveway is delineated by two solid white lines as
these
opposed
lines?
to the ladder type style on
Okay.
the driveways.
Okay, just consistency. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Melissa Stryker, 2301 Appleby Drive, Wanamassa.
Hi.
The jug handle is two ways.
Yes.
It's a two-way street.
Yes, ma'am.
How many driveways are off of the jug handle? And are the driveways to turn off also allow cars to enter in the same driveway? So the driveway is an on and an off driveway onto the jug handles?
Depends on what driveway. So from what I quick count, there's 7 driveways. The one that is closest to the entrance off of Route 35 northbound, that's going to be a right turn only in. And the one down towards Deal Road, that's only going to be an out heading eastbound from that portion of the site. The rest of the driveways are two-way.
Okay, so on this jug handle,
Mhm.
to get to the stores or whatever it is that is on the north side, if you come off of 35 onto that jug handle and then you want to make a left into those structures,
Yes.
what is the chance of that holding up traffic?
Not very high.
And why is that?
Because there will not be a lot of traffic coming from, let's say, Deal heading westbound to get out onto 35.
No, I'm
The only thing that prevents you or conflicts with you if you're trying to make a left turn, if you come off 35 and you want to make a left turn into any of the...
Yes, that's my question.
Right. The
Okay.
only thing that is going to prevent you from making that left turn is somebody coming in the opposite direction.
Okay, so that can be a snag there, right? So if somebody is come off of 35 north onto the jug, and they're partway up, and they want to go to the hotel or to that other structure, which I from here can't see what that one is. Is that the Chick-fil-A? So then they would want to turn left, right?
Yes, and what I'm telling you, just to speed it up because I know it's getting late, I'm offering, in my opinion, those left turns off the urban jug handle to get into the buildings that you've described will not be a hard maneuver to make based on the studies we've conducted. So there will not be a snag or a backup as you've described.
Okay, I don't know if I agree with that, but, so all of these driveways, only the first one is allowing, only the first driveway off of there is restricted.
As well as the one
At
that
the
is
we're at the end.
correct.
All right, the rest are all egress, ingress, either way.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Neil Piper, 1702 Holbrook Street, Oakhurst.
Hi.
Just, hey, I'm not familiar with the term, but I've heard it, of course, tonight, first meeting I attended. Urban jug handle, is that a generic term? Is that now being utilized for?
It's a term that Jersey DOT has identified for jug handles that are incorporated into developments. So I think I heard this was your first night coming to this meetings for this project. Originally, we had a jug handle at the corner, and that's evolved into an urban jug handle that's been incorporated into the site itself.
So the term urban jug handle is applied to this due to the complexity of it, or the volume, or it's just a DOT?
It's just a DOT term. You could be in a rural area, or you could be in an urban area. You could be in a very lightly trafficked
So that's
area.
where it originates, DOT?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Charles Curlew, 48 Cold Indian Springs, again, still.
Hi.
Are there any shoulders on the jug handle, or is it just wide enough for a vehicle?
There are no shoulders, no, sir.
Okay. Can you describe how a tanker truck comes in and make gasoline deliveries?
I did not testify to that tonight. That was handled at previous meetings. So no.
Okay. You're saying trucks can access the jug handle, but I'm finding it difficult to visualize a flow of a truck into
Mr. Chair?
off the jug handle.
I
into the
understand that
site.
Mr. Curley has that concern, but I have to place an objection on the record. When Jeremy testified very early on in this project, we did introduce a truck turning template that did show how trucks could maneuver, the gas trucks could maneuver in and out of the Wawa. It wasn't testified tonight. His testimony has long since been
I
closed.
remember. Gonna have to sustain that objection. Make a motion?
No. Are there any more questions?
It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah. It's 10 o'clock. As was announced a couple times before, we would end at this time. I think for the purposes of the proceeding, we should have a motion to adjourn at the time that we had announced. Is there a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Before the motion to adjourn, you can't adjourn until we carry it to the next hearing, until we
Right.
discuss the procedural. So I respectfully request that you hold off on the motion to adjourn until we've offered the public the knowledges to the next meeting. But before you do that,
But we already did that, but we can.
no, we
can go over
didn't.
it.
We didn't do that. But
We did.
before we do that, I would ask that based on the testimony tonight, if there's any more questions for Mr. Desario, to wrap up what he testified to tonight.
Are there? Okay.
I just want to clarify. Can I ask for clarification?
You have to come up to the microphone, please.
No, we're not going to have any more questions tonight.
Let me
want to know
before
how
I
many-
ask, let me just say what I want to ask, and then you can decide whether I can
Excuse
ask.
me. No. Just
No?
let our attorney speak now, please. Thank you.
Okay.
There's a question that was raised by counsel for the applicant about procedure before we end the meeting. And you wanted to know how many people had questions. If there were no more questions, you don't want to bring back your traffic expert.
Right. Well, but he is coming back because, as we had indicated earlier on in the testimony, we're going to resolve that issue as it relates to the geometry of the one leg of the intersection.
Right,
So he will be back.
So your reason for asking about the number of questions is what then?
just in the hopes that we could finish up to what he testified to tonight, and we could just move on to
It's obvious that
that
there are
issue.
many other questions.
It wasn't to me, now I see that it is.
Now it is. All right,
Okay.
so that's asked and answered now. So we're not going to go back into any other points other than to talk about procedure.
So procedurally, I would ask first that the board consider holding this in the high school for the next meeting. I would hate to see us get there and have everybody come out and have there be an occupancy issue, and my guess would be that there might be. So
The high school has been secured for next week. Starting at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, clarify the date,
wait,
please.
no, it's not a special meeting, so it'll be 7:30.
7:30.
7 o'clock for the board. 7:30 for the rest.
Fine.
Okay.
So
And that will be Monday. What
Monday,
date?
22nd.
Did everybody hear that? So
24th.
Monday, July
22nd.
22nd is the next
22nd.
You're right.
regular meeting of the planning board. It will be at the high school, okay? But as a regular meeting, that would mean that there may be other applications that would be heard before this particular one. An agenda has not been set yet, but I just note that, and that has happened with this application before. We have been at regular meetings, and we have had applications before continuing.
Correct,
with
but
this.
I would ask that you also put on the record, because you were criticized for saying that at a previous meeting and then it not having happened, is that it may be that we are the only thing on, so the public should be prepared to be there at 7:30
Right.
and not rely on the fact that there may be
That's why I
other
said may.
applications on first.
Of course.
I know, but you got it, last time they gave you hard times, I'm just... And what was the address of the high school? I don't know that off the top of my head. Does anybody?
550 West Park.
Okay. And that's without further notice, Mr. Chair?
Yes, it is.
So with regard to procedure, if there are clarifications,
No.
will they be allowed to be asked next time, in which case I'm willing to ask them next time? That is a question of procedure. We're discussing procedure.
We're done with the questions this evening for this gentleman, for his testimony
But if
this evening.
there's clarifications to things that he testified tonight, will there be an opportunity to ask them at the next meeting? That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay, because you looked very unsure about that, so I just wanted
It's
to
okay. Well,
clarify.
thanks for letting me know.
I'm happy to let you know.
I know you are.
I'll make a motion to close the this session.
Wait, August meeting.
Well, we have to.
No, that's next.
I second.
Okay.
Yes. Since you asked.
Do you want to do a roll? Go through the vote. Don't get up, Greg. We need you for something else.
Yes.
You have to have
Ladies and gentlemen, you might want to stay for another minute or two for your own edification. Thank you.
For what?
Go ahead. Yes. Okay. Will someone please make a motion regarding that there will be no meetings of the planning board, special or otherwise, in August of this year?
So moved. I make a motion. There'll be no meetings for the planning board in August.
I will gladly second that.
Roll call.
Roll call, please. So you know.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Fred, hold on.
We have to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion.
No, we're talking about August. Now we gotta close the meeting.
I motion to end the meeting.
I second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Amy.
Roll call.
Wait, could you wait 1 second? We're trying to just close this meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting was from Peter.
Peter said it. I seconded it.
No, it is. Well, then,
Right
then,
away
then,
to the building.
well, then,
Yes.
to the building, possibly.
He said yes.
Not much of a difference. Yes.
Yes. Ask 3 times, the whole thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Are you asking me? Yes.